This video was brought to you by Brilliant.org. Brilliant offers a hands-on, step-by-step math and science education for just about everyone, and the first 200 people to sign up for free using the link below will get access to the entirety of the site's courses for 20% off. Imagine a game where you are in complete control. You don't need any software, any special graphic specifications. You don't even need a computer. All you need is your mind. Now, imagine a language that you speak with your hands while still having a voice. Take those two ideas, smash them together, and that's the piano. Now, I'm not a professional pianist or a virtuoso in any sense of the word. And a lot of what I say here might sound primitive to a lot of musicians. I just like playing the piano. Like any game, it has an object. But unlike any other game where you're limited to what the developer wanted you to do, you define the object. You could be creating an emotion, expressing yourself, or translating sheet music, whatever you'd like to do. For now, let's define our object as creating emotion, because that's what I like to do. Maybe you want to make something happy, something sad, something that sounds like this, where who the hell knows? Maybe you want to sound like you're playing in a speakeasy from the 1920s. Hell, maybe you want to sound like you're in an anime. You can do that whenever and however you want to. But like any good game, there are rules, a lot of them. Rules that make things sound happy, sad, somewhere in the middle, to the side, above, below, and even in an anime, if that's really what you want. But before I can get into any of that, remember, the piano is a language, so you need the most basic rules that tell you how to speak it. If you're a Spanish speaker, you know there's a difference between en and enye. One will give you senor, which isn't a word, and the other will give you senor, which is. On the piano, you need to know that all the keys have letters, and also that they have numbers too, but also that the A here has a completely different sound from the A flat. And on the piano, once you strike both, you immediately know that difference. The lower one spatially, the flat, has a lower pitch. A sharp has a higher pitch, and it's higher spatially. And then sometimes there's really weird rules where you need to call a B a C flat because you're working in the key of C flat major, which is the key of B major, but it's not because it is C flat major, but it really just is B. But also like Spanish, there are rules that yield the equivalent happy and sad sounds. You can't conjugate the verb practicar to the usted form without knowing the cargar-zar rules. Knowing them, you get usted practique. Without them, you have usted practice. And that's not Spanish. There's a completely different sound, pronunciation, and spelling because of a single rule. And it ain't any different on the piano. In fact, it's spelled out for you. In the key of C major, the default, simplest key on the piano, all you have to do is look at the white keys and then push them down. But say you want to play in D, B flat, or maybe G sharp. The rule is right there in C. You just have to look for it. No memorizing of key signatures, no weeks of practice, just one simple rule. And if you're interested enough about the piano, you didn't need me to explain that to you. It was already there in the architecture of the instrument for you to discover. The rule for minor is also there, right in the architecture. And it's something that you can discover for yourself too. Nobody needs to show it to you. Now that you know all the letters and their rules, you can make any basic word you want. Play one note at a time, 2 notes, 3, 6, 10 if you want. You can use all your fingers if it really fits the bill. It's up to you. When making words in a language, there really aren't any rules. I mean, there's some if it's English, and there's like a fuck ton of exceptions too. But the piano isn't like that. There's rules for how you make your words. There's never gonna be a case where you have something like geese versus goose, but cars versus cars, or moose and moose. No, it's uniform. There's one rule for making these chords on the piano. There's many, many, many different types of chords, many different types of words, but the most basic is the triad. If you want to make it and you're in a major key, pick a note, skip one, play another, skip one, and play another. If the resulting triad happens to be major, which you'll know because it sounds happy, flat the middle note and it becomes minor. If the triad happens to be minor when you first make it, just sharp the middle note and it'll become major. That is, unless you do this on the 7th note of the key, in which case you'll have to sharp 2 of the notes. You can now play any triad you want and invoke almost any emotion you want. Just like that. Now, we have some words, but in Spanish, one word, say, el señor, isn't a complete sentence. But el señor es mi papi, that's a complete sentence. But to make it, you need to know a lot more rules. Rules for conjugation, syntax, tense, mood, etc., etc., etc. On the piano, there's really just one major rule for all that, and it's cadence, or the finality of a musical sentence. The simplest cadence in music is found in the 1-6-4-5 progression, which I've talked about before, but even though it's the simplest, it uses the most perfect cadence in music. The perfect cadence. When repeating this series of chords, you go from a 5 to a 1. And, well, that's a rule. It sounds complete. Of course, there's a harmonic explanation for why it works, but this isn't about musical harmonics, it's about the piano. And on the piano, there's a visual explanation. You could play the notes of a chord in any order you like, as spread out as you'd like, with as many hands as you'd like, playing one note per hand, if you really, really want to. But for the most part, we'll play a chord in one hand, and we'll be playing every other note. So if we have a G major chord, we could play it like this, or this, and they'd all be the exact same chord. Well, not quite, but close enough for our purposes. This form of the chord, though, resolves right up to the C chord, and that's what makes for the perfect finality in this progression: strong tension and release. And right here on the piano, you can see that tension and release. Not only is it obvious, but you could transpose this rule into any key you want. If you want it minor, you could transpose this with minor chords. You could do with it whatever the hell you want. But maybe you don't want things to feel so solid because, damn it, it's 1969 and you just ate a dish of squid, and you don't want perfection to describe that. So, like Ringo Starr, you could use the deceptive cadence. Or maybe it's the 1970s, and you don't want either of those because you want to describe a crazy little thing called love. Well then, like Freddie Mercury, you could use the plagal cadence. But maybe you just want to keep things simple, stick to the perfect cadence and the 1-6-4-5. You've still got a lot of options, because, like I said, you can rearrange the notes any way you want and end up with completely different sounds, different moods, and different feelings. Of course, keeping with the basics, you could play everything in its ordinary form, say, heart and soul. Or we could flourish things up, drop that middle note down every now and then, and we get some suspended 2 chords. Or we could raise it up every now and then and get some suspended 4 chords. Now, we could spread everything out, hold down the sustain pedal, and end up with something more like this. Now, you've got way more than heart and soul to work with, because it turns out the 1-6-4-5 and its variants are the most popular chord progressions in use in the past 100 years. You want to throw back to just 10 years ago? You could play Justin Bieber's Baby. Maybe you want to go back to 2007. Sean Kingston's Beautiful Girls. 1986, A Light That Never Goes Out. Also 1986, Don't Dream It's Over. 1971, Take Me Home, Country Roads. With some adjustments, you can play everything from Bach to Beethoven to the White Stripes to Led fucking Zeppelin. Now, besides the relationship between the G and the C we talked about before, F and C are also connected, and so are A and C. Every chord in the progression is linked, and on the piano, you can clearly see that. On the guitar or even in sheet music, not so much. But we're not done yet. If you're speaking Spanish, you could leave things at El Señor es mi papi, and you'd be okay. In fact, there's a lot you could say. But if you want to be a fluent professional, you're gonna need to beef shit up. La clasificación para ser mi papi es muy complicado, y en este momento no hay un papi. If you're in Minecraft, you could just build a house, but you want to build a whole fucking company. But to do that, and especially in language, you need more rules. The simplest thing to do would be to learn more progressions. There's the 251, the 736-251, the 147-36251, and the 153-4145, plus a lot more. But they're all variants of the same sentence that we came up with before. Yeah, they're longer, but on the piano, as in real life, size isn't everything. It's how you use it that matters. Case in point, the simple 251 versus the 736-251. I could play the 736 like this, simply. And yeah, it's pretty long. Or I could play the regular 251 like this. That's the jazz standard Autumn Leaves. And even though it's shorter, there's a lot more going on. But that's a story for another time. Because even without all that complexity, you can play just about any song you want. If you want to play happy, play happy. If you want to play sad, play sad. Poppy, 1645. Jazzy, 251. Anime, sustain pedal, and broad chords. The piano's amazing. Give it a shot. This is Mr. Amazing. Thanks for watching. I taught myself more about the piano by solving problems. When I wanted to do something, I figured it out and developed a rule. It's a method of learning that can be applied to just about anything you'd like to learn, and I wouldn't have been able to speak so fluently about the piano without it. It's a time-consuming process to perform on your own, and Brilliant.org, who've sponsored this video, can make it a lot easier for those of you who want to learn about science, technology, and mathematics. While I had to come up with my own learning curriculum to play on the piano, Brilliant offers that curriculum to you through hands-on problems and explanations that help you determine where you went wrong, so you can gradually build an intuitive skill set in a lot of different fields, speaking the languages of logic, classical mechanics, or even special relativity. If you want to know why the piano is amazing from a theoretical standpoint, mechanics and the harmonic progression are definitely that. So, to learn more about them, Brilliant itself, and help support the channel too, go to brilliant.org/Mr. Amazing and sign up for free. The first 200 people to do so using that link will get 20% off the site's annual premium subscription, something you might want to get sooner or later, since I already talked about some of these topics, and you might see some more of them in some videos to come. If this video taught you something, shoot me an email of you playing the piano, and maybe you'll get featured in the next video I make on this.